So I'm not gonna lie to you, it seems as though every game I like, the internet and media hate, and every game I hate, well, apparently I'm just not seeing the vision. Regardless, I want to discuss Sonic Superstars because I am genuinely trying to understand why some people think this is a failure of a game. Now, before we jump into whether or not it is a failure or a success, I want to talk about the background for this game. Sonic Superstars, like many other Sonic titles, had interesting origins. Fans of the franchise wanted Sonic Mania 2, and for good reason. The game sold well and was very well received by critics and fans alike, and for a small period of time this was indeed possible. According to the Game Informer magazine that covered Sonic Superstars, which I actually bought, Takashi Iizuka talked with the studio behind Sonic Mania about a successor. He specifically says it's too bad that it never came to be a finished game, however he is pleased that the next generation of classic Sonic that they had talked about did come to fruition with Sonic Superstars. That is important to note here because this is a next generation 2D Sonic game, and it is also exactly how the team wanted it to be, so there were no development issues like with previous Sonic titles. So now let's just get into the big part of this. Is Sonic Superstars a failure or a success? I don't think it's a failure. I think it's actually a pretty good first step for Sonic's future, but yes, it has flaws. Now before I give some more details on that, let's just look at all of the data we can find to see how it actually sold. Now there's no official numbers on Sonic Superstars, which is kind of weird, but based on the data that we got recently and last year, Sonic Superstars has sold much more than Sonic Mania, even though the sales were sluggish because of that Mario Wonder release date, which Sega, I have no idea why you thought that would be a good thing to release Sonic Superstars the same week as Spider-Man 2 and Mario 1. That was just senseless. In any case, based on some clever math from last year's numbers, Sonic Superstars sold roughly 2 million copies worldwide, and that number is probably much closer or past 3 million at this point with these updated figures. That's not really bad at all. It could be better, but it's not bad. And Sonic was the #1 franchise for Sega and bestseller for 2023, which is now getting them more aggressive with the Sonic franchise, and honestly that's a good thing to hear. When you have success with something, you double down on that thing that is very successful. But that's another topic for another day. Point blank, the game has outsold Sonic Mania comfortably, even though I do not want to compare the two like gameplay wise and art style wise because they're trying to do two different things. But comparing the sales of both of those games, that's fair. So commercially, Sonic Superstars is not a failure, even if it didn't exactly live up to the fullest expectations that Sega had set. Review scores for the game also matter, and Sega themselves have talked about Metacritic scores for their games, and of course Sonic Superstars was on that list. It has a 73, which is not good. Now it's not a failure, it's not like a 56 or anything, but it's definitely a massive step back from Sonic Mania, which had a score of 88. So between the reviews and the sales, I mean, it did okay. Was it a home run? Absolutely not. But it was at the very least a solid base hit, and if you're on the generous side like I am, I would say it's a double. So with that being said, I don't think this game is a failure by any stretch of the imagination. It's actually a success, and now let me make my case. Look, obviously the word success can be nuanced depending on the game that we're talking about or the publisher, but I think Sonic Superstars fits the bill of success very well. The studio Arzest was tasked with modernizing classic Sonic's formula and providing something fresh to it. They needed to make sure that the game was true to the roots of the series, but also unique in its own way. They also created the game during the height of the pandemic, which meant a lot of remote work for everybody. But somehow they did just that. This is very unique, and it's also true to the classic Sonic brand. It is the next generation of 2D Sonic. The stages are very well crafted, with different paths and routes to take per stage. The visuals are truly some of the best in any Sonic game ever. They have really cool artwork for this game added on top of all of that. They managed to make every playable character feel unique and controlled perfectly, and mind you, this is not to mention Trip, who's a brand new character that adds never before seen abilities to the series, like turning into a dragon. I mean, come on, look, when you look at all of the things that this game has tried to do and accomplished, it's pretty impressive. Also, Fang is the main villain in this game alongside Eggman, and I mean, look at this guy. Look at that hat. How can you not love him, even though he's a villain? My point is, Studio Arzest has nailed so many good things about this game, from the gameplay to the stages feeling unique, the villains, the characters, a brand new character. It all really screams success. But the success of this game extends well beyond the characters. The stages themselves are so much more evolved than anything we've seen before in 2D Sonic. Press Factory sees you constantly pushing a button to cool off an impending explosion that would send you back to a checkpoint. There's Lagoon City, which has you enjoying a thrill of water slides and giant fruit. Cyber Station is probably the coolest stage in this game, and it has rockets, jellyfish, bright colors, and Minecraft block-like character models. There is so much more fun and joy in these stages than any other 2D Sonic game. It's not really close. And these stages feel interactive, they feel alive, which speaks to the success of bringing 2D Sonic into the next generation. This is something older games were lacking. Does Sonic Superstars hit a home run? No. Again, it does not hit a home run. There are plenty of flaws with this game, like the insane level of difficulty in boss fights and the length of them too. They also launched with a small amount of content, which I mean honestly we have to be getting a Sonic Superstars Plus because what we have right now is just not acceptable. But with all that being said though, I think to call this game a failure seems ridiculous when you consider the goal of the game. Again, the goal was a next generation 2D game for future 2D entries to build off of, and they pretty much nailed it. Its sales right now are fine and will probably round out to be great when they actually release DLC and avoid future release dates next to anything Mario. Sonic Superstars I think is a success. It tries to do something and it accomplishes that something. Last thing I want to point out is some things that it could do to improve for the sequel. Make boss fights shorter. And I don't mean a lot shorter, just avoid 10-minute battles. Launch with more content, because I feel like that shouldn't really be something that I should be listing on here. It should just be something that's always done. And more character-centric stages and zones would be awesome. I mean, getting a full-on zone dedicated to like Knuckles would be really cool. Oh, also add a mode where you can play as Fang or Eggman and try to stop Sonic and the team from passing the stage. I don't know how it would work in practice, but that seems like a really neat idea. So with that, I want to hear what you think though. Is Sonic Superstars a failure in your eyes, or is it a great first step in the latest take on 2D Sonic? Comment down below, and if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like for me. It would mean the whole wide world. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you all in the next one, but until then, peace.